Welcome again, everyone, to day 2 of Travel Webcast Week with Baxter Media, your partner in travel. I'm Dan McDonald, Webinar Manager for Travel Webcast Week. And over the next couple of days, we'll be exploring the future of travel and tourism in a post-COVID-19 world, with experts from across the industry discussing the topics, trends, and issues that matter most to Canadian travel agents and industry professionals right now. Today, the theme is Hotel How-To, shifting marketing efforts to attract local clientele, promote safe protocols, and engage with agents. Our first segment will feature an expert Q&A with Susie Grinall, President and CEO of the Hotel Association of Canada. And our second segment will consist of a panel discussion similar to yesterday's format. And we'll wrap up with a short case study presented by Julie Owens, Regional Director of Sales for the Eastern Region for Small Luxury Hotels of the World. Our moderator for today is Larry Mogilonsky. Larry is the managing partner of Hotel Mogul Consulting Limited, a Toronto-based hotel consulting practice. His experience encompasses hotel properties ranging from luxury and boutique to select service. Larry is also the world's most published author in the hospitality industry, with 5 books in print and a 6th one dedicated to COVID solutions expected this fall. He is a syndicated columnist in 11 publications. Just before we get into things, I'd like to let our viewers know that at the end of each segment, you'll have a chance to ask questions to our panelists. To do so, just type them into the Q&A box found in your Zoom toolbar, and those questions will be answered in due time. If you happen to be watching this on Facebook Live, feel free to submit your questions to the comments box. And remember, this is a live session, so your patience is appreciated during any technical difficulties that might arise. Okay, Larry, I'll now hand things over to you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Susie, been busy these days, I imagine?
It's just been, there's been nothing going on really. It's just been very relaxing, yeah.
Business as usual.
Business as usual. I mean, yeah. No, it's been a roller coaster to say the least, Larry. Never a dull moment, and just an unbelievable experience for both myself, our team, and obviously the hotel industry as well.
So, what's happening? Tell us a little bit about the state of the business in the country.
Sure. Well, we hit rock bottom in about mid-March, and occupancy levels dropped in a matter of 48 hours. It was shocking to single-digit occupancy on a national average. And at that level, you obviously can't sustain a hotel operation. So we did see most hotels in Canada close down. Now we are starting to see a very slow turtle-like crawl back upwards. The latest occupancy numbers are 25%, which is well below where other parts of the world are still, but certainly, nice to see Canadians moving around a little bit more, and it does reflect the fact that people are starting to feel more comfortable, which is a good sign. Some regions are doing better than others. Still in Canada, we have a number of restrictions still in place. Good to see that the GTA will be opening up today. That's certainly good news, but we did have early adapters of opening for certain provinces such as BC and Manitoba and Saskatchewan. So we've seen, and Alberta, we've seen some movement there, more than we have certainly in the East. And then of course you've got the Eastern provinces where you can't even have Canadians come from the outside. And our international borders remain closed. There's still restrictions on, and there will be for some time, on mass gatherings, convention and meeting business. We don't see that coming back anytime soon. So I would say people are cautiously optimistic that we will still see a summer. And I'll leave you with one final stat, which is the Conference Board of Canada just came out with their latest poll that 48% of Canadians do want to travel within Canada this summer, and they intend to do that. So I think we're waiting for some of those barriers to be taken down and a bit of a green light given by our local governments. And hopefully we start to see those occupancy levels climb.
Are you seeing any types of hotels that are potentially doing better than others currently and into the next few months?
Well, right now it's regional specific because of course some provinces have opened up sooner than others. Obviously the airport hotels, many of those were doing well all through COVID because of course we still had Canadians that were coming back into Canada and needed to quarantine for a period. The quarantine measures are largely done outside of Manitoba. So you know, it's a real mixed bag out there, but we are seeing some uptick, which is good news.
Well, it's encouraging, and I know that without being political, our government has done an awful lot to encourage employment and to keep our country going. But what has the Hotel Association been doing to help hoteliers?
Well, we've had an incredible, 4 months journey to support the industry through this period. And I think we've been with them every step of the way. First of all, we've had incredible engagement from our members. This is unprecedented, as we all know. So we've had, 700 new members join us. Our membership is free right now. We've had engagement from our ownership community like we've never seen before, obviously. They have been very much engaged in developing the policy areas that we are working on. So we've got, the driver's seat, I think, is being shared by our senior leadership. Our board created a subcommittee response team that met every day and then every 48 hours, and now it still meets once a week to manage this pandemic. And out of that has yielded a whole pile of work that bodies of work that we've done as an association. First of all, we've done 16 different webinars for our members to support them through what was a different issue every single week. The first week was we've got to lay off 80% of the workforce. So how do we do that? How do we manage our employees? And so there was a lot of government work that went into place to make sure that employees were supported. Then there was a number of legal issues around hotels serving as quarantine facilities, isolation facilities. What is the duty of care to inform people who might have been staying in a room? What if someone shows up at the front desk and they have symptoms? Can you turn these people away? So it was a very gray area for hotels to work through some of those issues. So we held a number of legal clinics to support our members. And then, of course, accessing the government programs and making sure that they benefited our sector. The truth is that when most of these government's programs came out, they were not designed to support the hotel industry. Because of how we're structured, there was a whole range of reasons why we didn't qualify. So we had to work the back channels to fix a lot of these programs and to stretch their qualification criteria so that our whole sector, or as much of it as possible, would be covered. And then it was key for our members to know what these programs actually mean. How can they apply? When can they apply? And there's only so much money to go around. So our members needed to be organized. They needed to know what documents they needed to have in a row in order to apply for some of these programs. So we were issuing communications within hours of the government announcements for what those announcements meant, what they meant for the hotel sector, when you can apply, what the shortcomings are. And in turn, we had a very sophisticated feedback mechanism with our members to understand how these programs were playing out on the ground so that we could take that information and that data back to government. One of the things about being the earliest hit is that we were the most organized stakeholder out there. We were at the table with government in early March as a leading indicator for what was about to hit the rest of the economy. And since that day, we have been providing data and feedback to government, and we've really been one of their most trusted advisors. Our recommendations have gone right up to cabinet, and much of what's been announced has been a direct result of our lobbying. And I guess I would just end with consumer confidence is a absolute key here to how quickly we come back. And so we also launched a new program called Safe Stay, and I can get into that, I think, in one of your later questions in more detail.
Sure, of course. And as we move our respective communities through phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of reopening, the recommendations of the Hotel Association insofar as establishing standards for housekeeping and custodial care are critical, because that will lead to helping consumers in terms of feeling confident about the hotel that they're staying in.
Yes.
Have you got any plans in that area to establish a standard that says this hotel is Hotel Association of Canada approved type
thing? Exactly. Well, that will be managed in phases. And right now we're in phase 1, which is a guideline. So we've developed a guideline with our American Hotel and Lodging Association. And it is a North American guideline for hotels that incorporates all of the recommendations of public health in our two countries and really integrates them into the hotel system. And so there's 19 different protocols. The document is being widely adopted in both of our countries. But in addition to that, our brand companies have really taken on a leadership role here as well. They have their own internal programs, many of them even I would say a notch above where the guidelines that we've developed are, because they're making sizable investments into technology and cleaning, electrostatic sprayers, for example, as a brand standard. So there's a lot of movement here and a deep commitment from the industry to make sure that when people are ready to travel, they can stay in a hotel and they can rest assured that both the employees in that hotel and the guests and their families are safe.
There's safety, and that's great, but let's talk about the guest experience in a post-COVID hotel. Am I going to have to go in and wear gloves and a mask and a hazmat suit? Will I see people wandering around the hotel in hazmat? How is this going to work?
Absolutely. Well, the infrastructure of a hotel is going to look the same, but there will obviously be some changes to the experience. So social distancing will be incorporated. You'll see, likely markings on the floor, strict use of elevators down to 2 people or 1, depending on which guideline the hotel adopts. The check-in experience may look different. First of all, you'll likely have plexiglass between you and the front desk agent. There'll be extra hand sanitizing stations located throughout the hotel. Some will be going to great lengths to, be wiping down surfaces in between each guest check-in. The PIN pad, the maximum levels for tap have now been increased for most hotels, so that you don't even have to touch the PIN pad. You can just, tap your credit card. So really, a lot of thinking has gone into how to minimize the things that you need to touch when you're checking into a hotel. And this is where mobile check-in technology is also coming into play, and some of those plans are being accelerated. But then when you actually walk into the hotel room itself, people can rest assured that those rooms have been sanitized, that those surfaces have been disinfected, and that they can rest comfortably. And what that includes is higher frequency of cleaning and disinfection of those high touch surfaces, like the door handle, the remote controls, the light switch, the faucets. And for items that are difficult to sanitize, like the throw pillow or the bedspread or the magazine, some of those items are likely to be removed altogether.
It is going to be clearly different for guests, but as you said, everything that we can do to retain and restore the guests' confidence in their stay is critical. So what, and you've been working with governments at the local, provincial, federal levels, of course. What more can they do to support the hotel sector? Because as you said, a 25% occupancy is not going to cut it in terms of break evens, which we know in the hotel industry, a low of 37, a high of 46 is the minimum range to sustain that environment. What are your thoughts?
Well, in order to recover, you obviously need revenue. You need to be able to pay your bills. And either that money is coming from the government in the form of liquidity or loans or subsidies for fixed costs, or it's coming from occupancy. And we're now in that zone where we're starting to see occupancy start to climb. But as I indicated earlier, there remain a number of government imposed barriers that will be in place for some time before we get to a full recovery. So what the government can do to support us is support those fixed costs during this interim period. And they have done that through the wage subsidy program. That program is absolutely critical. It needs to be, extended into recovery for the hotel sector. Right. It covers 75% of that fixed cost, which is the highest fixed cost, wages. But for a lot of hotels that are still, not open or not even hitting that 20% mark, they don't have people back at the hotel working, and they are still on the hook for their property tax and their mortgages. and their insurance. And so there needs to be more work done to support those big fixed costs like property tax at the municipal level. And I think the biggest gap right now in the federal government programming, which is where we spend the majority of our time, is on the loan program. So the loan programs came out, the government backed the loans by 80%. The banks are only on the hook for that 20%, but they're asking for personal guarantees. The repayment terms don't make sense because it's going to take a while before hotels have a line of sight on when they're going to see strong occupancy. And so the program needs a bit of a redesign in order to properly meet the needs of the hotel sector. And we are working daily with the government on a slew of changes that would improve that program and help it to hit the mark.
I think as you've said, and we've tapped upon those key words, restoring the consumer or the guest's confidence in stay. And you mentioned this study with 48%, which is, let's say, half of people want to have cabin fever right now. Have been sitting in their home or condo for the past 100 days, and they're saying, we want out. So when you look at the hotel industry and you're talking right now to travel agents, what is your recommendation to them listening to this program to help the industry? What can they do? How would you interface with them or make your recommendations?
Well, I think just sharing the information. I mean, these are professional accommodation businesses. Hotels all look similar. Like it is possible to put into place strict and rigorous protocols and have them applied across a number of different hotels within a brand or within an ownership portfolio. And that work, that heavy lifting is being done and is very near completion now. And so the hotels that are going to open and who are going to be actively advertising are the ones that are going to be, they are going to be ready to receive these guests. They've gone through great lengths to put these systems in place, great expense also, I might add, to make sure that this doesn't come at no cost. These costs are being borne by our owners and at a time when they are on their knees. But this is so critical that we all do our part to make sure that we prevent the spread of this virus. Nobody wants a second wave of this. Nobody can handle a second wave of this, not governments, certainly not the industry. So I think awareness is key. This group being aware that these measures have been put in place. You'd be hard pressed to find a hotel in Canada, regardless of their size, that has not adopted the protocols that we've put in our safe stay guideline. It's been the most downloaded guideline that we've ever produced. And again, on top of that, you've got the brands who have put into place, all of them, very impressive and enhanced cleaning protocols. So the industry's ready. And of course, though, we have to appreciate that some people are going to be ready to travel before others. And so when people are comfortable, and we hope that that does happen this summer based on that statistic, whether it's the summer or the fall, or people are out there traveling for work or fun or for family, that hotels will be ready.
Well, I personally want to go out to the Maritimes. I was born in St. John, New Brunswick, and I want to go back and see friends and family, but I'm not allowed. I'm not even allowed to drive there right now. Mm-hmm. Do you see that these mini bubbles that are created legally, I understand, in places, let's say the Maritimes or out west are going to be maintained, or are you hoping or working towards encouraging and open borders, at least I'm saying open provincial borders?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about moving with what's happening south of the 49th parallel, but do you see an opportunity to have the Hotel Association encourage this type of transportation and commerce?
Absolutely. And we've formed a number of coalitions over the course of this experience. This is not a time for anyone to be standing alone. And we've been the most impacted of the subsectors of tourism, but all of tourism has been obviously impacted by this. So we have been working with a number of different organizations, and the most recent sort of movement is called the National Roundtable on Travel and Tourism. And it is a group that consists of the airlines, the heads of all the associations for the travel and tourism sectors, a number of our big owners, our brands, 200 CEOs signed a letter that went to the Prime Minister and the premiers. It was an open letter published in the Globe a couple of weeks ago. And every week we're doing follow-up and outreach on this, asking them to take a measured approach to reopening travel. And no one is suggesting that this shouldn't be done with public health, that this should be done willy-nilly. Obviously, public health needs to be at the forefront. But we have seen most other countries in the world reopen, at least to themselves. We are one of the only countries that still has these domestic barriers within our own within our own province. And we've seen in other countries that they have opened safely and in a measured way. And we are certainly calling on the government to at least open up Canada. And we believe that can be done safely. So there's a movement. It's called It's Time to Travel. And there's a whole social focus, there's a public relations focus, and there's a government relations aspect to it. And the whole goal here is for us to expedite the reopening of Canada and then eventually the international borders as well.
Well, I'm for it. I can hardly wait. And with gasoline prices down to levels of 10 years ago, that's going to encourage a lot of travel, I think, within each province, but as well province to province, where once those opportunities have start to present themselves. And I'm encouraged by what you say. Of course, it's going to be a tremendous challenge for the hoteliers to survive this period. And I'm going to use the words only once, God forbid, another massive deluge of this pandemic before a vaccine is found. And again, the fragile coalition and development that you are very much creating are going to be put into a serious test, shall we say.
Absolutely.
We are at the end of our half hour. I do have one question that has come in, and if other people listening have questions, please use your Q&A box, and I'll be able to forward these over to you, Susie. And the first one is from an anonymous attendee. I don't know anybody with the name anonymous, but I guess it is. And this individual is saying that they love the idea of having a streamlined HAC, Hotel Association Canada, approval system to increase consumer confidence. I don't know where they got an approval system from, but it can be confusing for agents and consumers to keep track of brand-specific protocols. And I'm just wondering, you mentioned approval system. Could you clarify? I thought you were meaning a set of brand standards or guidelines. Would you clarify that if you could?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of three components. One is we've developed a guideline. We have to start with a guideline. We had to get something in the hands of these operators who were trying to figure out. Public health was coming out with something new every other day. What is it that they needed to change from a systems perspective? So that was the first step. The second step, of course, is a certification program, which is where somebody would actually come in and say, okay, are you doing all of these things? And there is a series of bodies of work that are taking place right now. We're all exploring what this is going to look like, whether we're exploring whether the association is going to take a role in being a certification body. We are already a certification body on the sustainability side of the equation. So we do have a program called Green Key where we do go in and inspect properties and work with hotels to put sustainable practices in place. So we're well positioned to do it. We're just in the exploratory phase in terms of what that is going to look like. And I would say there's kind of another step in the middle there, which is training as well. So we're exploring training with our American counterparts. We're exploring certification as well. But in this interim period, and then I would say there's also going to be the legal framework, so the regulatory framework at all of the provincial levels, where hotels are going to have to comply with all of those standards. So anyone who's complying with our guide is going to meet, if not exceed, any of those local certification standards. But I appreciate that that's not something you can put on a site to say, okay, yeah, this hotel is certified clean. So we're also working with the OTAs to try and get systems in place. I think people are going to be looking for a criteria button that says, is this hotel clean or not? And the OTAs are now busy running around trying to determine which programs are actually clean, which have certification. So it's very much a live topic, and we're certainly at the center of it.
And as you said, training is so important, because even if you give people standards and they start to follow the standards, but if they stop following the standards, how do you know? And that's where training comes in. Another question's come through, again, anonymous, and we're talking a little bit here about hotel employees and terminations and layoffs, and what other jobs are available, because we're looking at a situation here where hotels, as you correctly said, the largest cost is the variable cost of wages. And if you don't have occupancy, you end up reducing the number of staff. You reduce the number of staff, people are laid off. What are we doing for our employees? What can we do?
Well, the wage subsidy program is critical for employees. Employees was our top concern this whole time. The first issue I heard about from members was not how am I going to pay the bills. It was how do I take care of my employees. And so we were instrumental in lobbying the government to make sure that when we had to lay off 80% of our workforce, that they were well taken care of through the CERB program, and now eventually the wage subsidy program, which of course maintains the employer-employee relationship. So for as long as that program remains in place, and we are certainly pushing to have that extended for the hotel sector to the end of the year, I think we are going to prevent some of what might be mass layoffs. And then of course, the big elephant in the room is, does occupancy come back, and do we have a second wave? I mean, in 6 months from now, when that program, if we're successful at pushing it, and we're talking about the end of the year, like, I don't think any of us really know where we're going to be in December. But assuming the best case scenario, and we do get a summer, and people are going to start to feel more comfortable traveling around, maybe business travel even picks up, and we have the support from the government over that period, that is certainly going to mitigate what would be sizable layoffs over the longer term. But we're certainly, all hotels, that is the top of mind question for hotels right now, is how do they, and we were in a labor crisis before that. I think that's the saddest part of all of this, is that we had such a hard time attracting all of these incredible workers. This is a hospitality industry. The employees are the backbone of this industry. They're so critically important to that service experience that you don't get when you stay at an Airbnb or any of those short-term rental facilities. And so, we will be watching this very closely and putting into place as many supports as possible for the employees.
Of course.
And hopefully hanging on to the majority of them. I mean, that's the goal. We want to avoid any of these layoffs if at all possible. Sure.
And another question I just received is exactly on that issue of Airbnb. And, I've written and very much, and we've had several chats on the impact of Airbnb on the hotel industry. And, it's a huge business, of course, you're well aware of that. What do you think? You think COVID's going to knock their socks off Airbnb because there's no standard, and it's a bit of, excuse the expression, a crapshoot for a guest arriving at an Airbnb who was there before? Did they clean it? How did they clean it? How do I know? Versus the standards that are established for hotels, you said correctly, through the brands, but as well the standards that will be established through HAC. What's the story? What do you think?
That company is, I think, in turmoil at the moment, both with their hosts, and there's been all sorts of infighting going on there. And I think they're very much struggling to reposition themselves. They're trying to make the argument that they're off the grid, and so people can sort of successfully self-isolate if they stay at an Airbnb facilities. But they absolutely will not be able to enforce the cleaning protocols that can be applied in a hotel circumstance, because of how decentralized they are, and they've got every different owner. We don't even know how those rooms are getting cleaned in the first place, let alone in this new environment where hotels, of course, being a professional accommodation business, have spent resources understanding and having scientists look at all of those high touch surfaces and understanding the virus lives for 36 hours, and what is the space that we need to have between cleans so that the room can rest before we're sending employees in there. All of those things have been so carefully thought out in a hotel environment, and that just is not going to be the case in the short-term rental industry. So, you know, it will be very interesting to see whether Airbnb remains, you know, it keeps its market share of where it was pre-COVID. Maybe it'll build back eventually once we start to see a vaccine, but certainly, you know, for me personally, there's no way I would ever take my family into a short-term rental facilities where I had no idea who stayed there before, how it was cleaned, and what the systems have been put in place.
Well, perhaps you'd bring your own cleaning crew in first, and
I'd bring my own cleaning crew. First of all, you'd never catch me dead at an Airbnb. Let's just get that out on the record.
I would take a picture of that. I have one last question.
That would be newsworthy. Absolutely.
A last question to finish off this segment of today's presentation, and that is thinking about travel agents and developing Canadian bookings. What are your thoughts in terms of creating some sort of incentives that would promote and stimulate people who are a little bit reticent about traveling right now to come on out this summer? And, you know, the water is fine. If you're in Toronto, the Muskoka's back in, or Manitoulin Island, or eastern part of the province. If you're in the Maritimes, PEI is fantastic. If you're out west, there's things to do in every single province. I've traveled to all of them, and there's some neat stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
So is there any way that we can incent customers, which are guests, to get out there and travel, and to perhaps speak to a travel agent, someone they haven't spoken to in years, let's say, that they can call them up and say, hey, I want to travel. What's going on? Is there any recommendations you have in this area?
I think one of the beautiful things about Canada is that we're just so well positioned to be welcoming people back and be doing it safely. First of all, you know, we've got so much open space. We can meet people wherever they are. If people want to have a holiday and they want to just, you know, do it off the grid, I mean, you can go up north, you can go to the east or the west. Even within every single province, there's going to be those remote sort of cottage areas or resort areas where you can go and have a sort of off the grid experience. Obviously, we are going to see a lot of, well, probably maybe even only domestic travel this summer, since we still have our international borders closed. People are going to be, we're anticipating there'll be a lot more rubber tire traffic than airline traffic, but you know, but people are starting to take airplanes as well. And I think just getting the message out that, I mean, I can only speak for hotels, and obviously travel agents are, I don't know whether they work with the short-term rental, you know, space or not, but speaking from the hotel industry, we're ready to receive people. And I think if the more the information gets out that the hotel industry is ready, and that end-to-end experience is safe in Canada. I mean, if you compare Canada to the US, for example, you're looking at the social unrest that you're seeing in the US. That's just not where we are in Canada. Canada is safe. And we're hopeful that we can get some clarity from governments that people can have the green light to travel within Canada. Some are going to be interested in doing that, and they're going to have a comfort level, and some are not. I think the goal here is to convert those people who are on the edge, and that's really where the role of this group can come into play, to get that message out that Canada, we are safe, we are secure, and we've taken all the precautions to make sure that people can have an end-to-end safe experience in this country.
Well, Susie, as always, it's great speaking to you. It's terrific. And anytime I get an opportunity, I'd love to volunteer on any of your committees and programs. Anytime.
Larry, thank you. You're a champion for the industry, and thank you for all your interest and all your writing, and pleasure to spend a half an hour with you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Daniel to move things on. Daniel?
Thank you so much, Larry, and thank you very much, Susie, for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here virtually with us. We'll now take half a minute to prepare for segment 2. And as we prepare for our panel discussion today, Larry will be moderating that segment as well. Hello, Eric. Jonathan and Robert, you can start your video feeds as well. Just 1 minute here.
I see Jonathan.
Robert, as soon as you're ready, you can start your video feed.
It should be on, Dan. Oops, sorry.
No worries. There we go. Over to you, Larry. Thanks, Jonathan.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the second part of today's review of the hotel industry. And I have with me three panelists, and I'd like to introduce them. First is Rob Huez. Rob, I don't know whether you remember, but we worked together at the Inn in the Park many, many years ago under Klaus Tenter, if you remember him.
I remember well, Larry. It's nice to get reacquainted many years later. That was a long time ago.
And Rob is running a large property in Toronto, the Chelsea, is 1,400 rooms, I believe, or is it 1,700?
No, we're 10 shy of 1,600.
1,600, exceptional. And next in the group is Eric Barber, and Eric is the Vice President of Sales for RealStar. And you might know RealStar as Days Inn, Motel 6, and Studio 6. Welcome, Eric. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Larry. Great to be here.
Terrific. And last but not least is Jonathan Lund, who's the Regional Vice President for the Intercontinental Hotel Group here in Canada.
Thank you, Larry.
Welcome, Jonathan. Glad to see you could join us. So
thank you.
Let's start with a real simple question. And perhaps start with you while you're on here, Jonathan. How's business? Tell me about your properties. What's going on? Have you opened, not opened, partially open? What's the scoop?
Well, I like to think we're always open for business, but we're about 10% of our properties closed. At the peak of this pandemic, it was about 20%. So we're gradually coming back online. And certainly the ones that are closed now are considering week by week when they should open. So everybody's kind of getting ready, obviously looking to see when this business is coming back. We've got really strong brands across the country. We've got 184 hotels. And of course, the ones you'd know the best are Holiday Inn, Holiday Inn Express. But when you were asking the question about which hotels are doing best, extended stay hotels are doing the best. And they're running, 10 or 15 points higher occupancy than the national average. And we're still opening hotels, believe it or not. Obviously, if you were in the ground, you're probably going to open. I see Linda from North Star Travel is on. You'll be happy to know we've opened a new Staybridge Suites in St. Jacobs right next to the market. So, life moves on, and we're all learning how to adapt to this new reality. But in Canada, we're running about 26% occupancy. I think Susie mentioned it, compared to the US, which is running more like 45%. So we've still got a long way to go. And, this is globally, this is impact every country across the world. The good news is that we're starting to see Asia come back. And also, certainly where there is resort type properties, and we're seeing this in the US, anything on the coast, anything that has destinations, they're starting to move a lot faster now. So, but that's kind of a big picture of where we're at.
Eric, are you seeing a similar situation with your properties across the country?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I have to preface the entire conversation by saying we had a phenomenal January and February across all our brands. So it came to a screeching halt in March. We had one Motel 6 closed only during this, which is back open. And then we had just slightly less than 20% of our Days Inns closed at its highest peak. Right now, I think we're down just 4 or 5 properties that aren't open, and those are expected to open within the next week. In terms of business, it really depends across the country how we're doing. We have hotels that are running 100% right now, or 99%, that are surpassing their numbers from last year like crazy. We have a lot of hotels that are, doing the national average as well. What we do see is we saw it bottom out when Trump declared the state of emergency. That was when we hit rock bottom, and we've been looking at our weekly occupancies, and we've been gradually moving the needle upwards. Not as fast as we would like, but we are seeing it grow. But we are seeing, hotels in some markets that are leading their competitive set, which we see as positive. The Days Inn and Motel 6 brands are fairly insulated for this kind of economic downturn, we are usually the first ones to pick up after a downturn. We saw this with 9/11. It's the rubber tire traffic, the types of hotels and locations we have. So, you know, it's hurt us, but we're cautiously optimistic.
Well, and lastly, Rob, single property, very large one in Toronto, and we know that Toronto is still in just opening today into phase 2, I believe, or stage 2. Are you ready? Well, what's the scoop?
Well, we're definitely ready. You know, as you correctly point out, Larry, Toronto is being hit much, much harder than other areas within Canada, although recognizing no one got off scot-free on this one. We've all suffered. I was thinking about the best way to try and quantify the picture, just so it's really easy for people to understand. And I think the way to do it is to say, if I compare this June to last June the hotel ran just over 90%. It's a 40,000 room night differential. I'll finish this month at 9%. We did 90% the year before, 40,000 rooms difference. And obviously that doesn't count the ancillary revenues, the food and beverage, the meeting room rentals, the parking rentals, all those sort of revenue streams that are gone as well. And bottom line, of course, as Susie referred to earlier today, that's impact all our wonderful hospitality professionals. You know, when I'm running 9%, I just don't have work for those people. So 96% of my workforce, or 550 odd employees, are without work right now.
That's somewhat tragic. And so what are you going to be doing to start to attract guests to the property, recognizing the environment that you have in Toronto, but and within the province at this point in time?
Well, it's encouraging that we've moved to stage 2. That's the beginnings, I think, of getting beyond that awful first stage where it's nothing but concerns over COVID. We believe very strongly that the hyperlocal, and then a little later on, perhaps the local, the rubber tire market that Eric spoke to, will be the first to recover. We believe that there is a terrible pent-up demand of people that are being trapped in their homes. Larry, I think you called it cabin fever. That's probably a really good description. We think they're ready to start to travel, and we're developing a number of value-add packages to try and entice that to happen once, you know, there are enough demand generators in the downtown area to encourage it to, those being some of the other attractions. And as we'll get to a little later on, I'm sure, we're also working very hard on safety protocols to make sure that people feel safe and confident as to what they're going to experience with their stay.
Sure. Jonathan, you are a little bit ahead of Rob in terms of opening with most of your properties, because they haven't been forced into the Toronto micro environment, shall we say. What will you be doing, and specifically to attract guests to come to your properties? Do you have any plans in mind? Any going to run massive half-price promotions, 2-for-1 discounts, this sort of thing? Any craziness like that, or just gradually open? What's the story here?
Well, I think hotels need to be appropriately priced, and I think that's market specific, and I think that's an important thing for us to think about. But really, I mean, what better time to take that great Canadian road trip? And when you think about, you know, Kemmons Wilson and how he started off Holiday Inn, he was looking for a safe, reliable, trustworthy hotel he could go to. And you can see those right across the country. So I totally agree with Rob, making sure that guests have confidence that they can stay, they trust the hotel they're going to. I think we've got to make sure that we're flexible in our booking policies. We allow people to make reservations and change their minds. You know, there's the booking cycle is very short term. It's, you know, 1 to 4 days right now, and it's people sticking their toe in the water thinking, shall we go this weekend or not? We don't want to penalize them if they don't go. I think we've got to work with our destinations. People choose, they're looking for something to do. They're not looking to go and just sit in a hotel room. They've been doing that at home for the last 100 days. So what is in the market? How do we package with those partners in the market and make it attractive for people to want to go somewhere? Certainly we need the borders to be open to make that happen. And so, I think you'll see, a lot of that type of backyard selling going on, and people making last minute decisions, and we need to be ready for them when they're ready to come.
Sure. And Eric, your thoughts on this again, attracting guests to properties, or are all your properties at 99 to 100%? And you don't have to wish.
I wish. We the first thing is establishing trust with the consumer, and we've put together programs across our brands to support this. Motel 6 has the Clean at 6 program. With the Days Inn, we have the Count on Us program. And that's all to do with social distancing, cleanliness, staff training, personal protective equipment for employees, that sort of thing. And we've done it all to the standards of the American Hotel and Lodging Association and their Stay Safe program, which, we're the first hotel chain actually able to use that logo in their advertising. But in order to attract the customers, especially in speaking to our agency community, one of the challenges for our agents is that they're not sure, just because a property is showing available 8 weeks from now in the GDS, is that property open or not? And I've had that feedback, from my engagements in the travel community since this started. And, we've undertaken a massive program within our company. We're calling it the Full Court Press, but essentially all assets within the company have been directed to create a giant database of tourism drivers and travel drivers within the markets. And then we are going out and we're engaging with customers, and we're telling them, this is our cleanliness program. Here's an incentive program for you to come and stay with us. So we give them a corporate discount, but this is not really about discounting. This is just about messaging and letting people know that we're open. And of course, we'll support this with B2C campaigns in the media, with very, very robust B2B strategies. And, I can tell you that we are seeing a huge demand for travel that is going to unleash itself into the world very soon. Just looking ahead to 2021, we're pacing ahead in the tour and travel segment at the same time for 2021 as we were in 2019 for 2020. So these are very, very good indicators.
I'm optimistic about those numbers, and you sound like many of people I've spoke to in the industry and said, get me through 2020, get it over with so I can get into a new year and start afresh. But you have over 100 travel agents listening to you now across this country, and they're thinking in their mind, okay, we're travel agents, and I'm not talking OTAs, not the online, but we're traditional travel agents who have survived the OTAs. They have solid businesses. They have solid customer relationships. How can your hotels build better relationships with these travel agents? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've always been a proponent of the agency community. The agency community and the hotel industry, we have very, very strong ties. There's been no commission cuts, no commission caps. We're definitely an ally of the agency community. The agency community is part and parcel of driving corporate business into our hotel and the corporate travel sector as well. So we remain engaged with them. That said, hotel brands and hotel companies as a whole have not been engaging with agents as much as they have in the past. And this is, call centers have closed, people are virtual, but, unfortunately, the agency community seems to have been forgotten by a lot of hotel companies. We are going to, as part of that full court press I was discussing, we are really going to make sure that the agency community is engaged, understands what Days Inns are offering, how we've had to truncate some amenities, how we've had to improve amenities for cleanliness and social distancing and other ways. So it's our job to communicate to those agencies. So when they're looking at the green screen and Sabre and they see the DI chain code, they're going to know, they're going to have spoken to someone from corporate, and they understand that we're on top of keeping their guests safe.
That's terrific. And Rob, I remember with you at an event that we held, a FAM meeting in a place called Seasons, if you remember that.
Yes.
And we had a giant event for local travel agents. I was your ad agency at the time, and I think you were rooms division manager way back at the Inn in the Park. Do you plan to do the same thing for local travel agents now? Like set back the clock 20 years or 25 years and bring them all in to tell them all about the great things that are happening at the Chelsea. Any thoughts in that regard, or what are you going to do to get relationships with travel agents going?
Sure. Well, Larry, I think like Eric said, unfortunately, some of us have been guilty of sort of drifting away from the brick and mortar agencies. And, that's not necessarily, in my opinion, the right thing to do. Hey, I think there are two things that you need to do, and certainly we plan to do, and we continue to do. First of all, don't assume that they know we are still here and we're still open. And in fact, we were always open during the crisis. We need to communicate. We need to get out, back in touch with them and let them know the status of the hotel, let them know what safety measures we've introduced to guarantee the safety of their clientele. What promotional efforts we might be making to, once again, try and improve the overall experience of that guest coming back to the hotel. And, we also, and we never really got away from this altogether, but we're going to enhance or improve just how frequently we do this coming out of this, is we use tools to measure contribution by agency. And, those ones that are major contributors to the hotel get visited by my sales team. And they're thanked for their contribution, but it's also a chance once again to, in person, make sure that they've got the information that they need so they feel comfortable booking our hotel. And we'll be doing even more of that than we've done in the past.
Jonathan, do you have any specific plans to enhance relationships with travel agents across IHG properties?
Well, I think a couple of things. I mean, certainly we've talked about delivering on the promise to those travel agencies. They're putting their customers in your hands, and we've got to fulfill that. That keeping their customers happy has got to be number one on our list. I think having our websites up to date with the right information, with the guarantees, with the right pictures, so it's easy for them to book. We're launching virtual site visits so that you don't actually have to get to the hotel. You can actually go in and view the site, the hotel virtually. Everything's virtual these days. And I know that the easier we can make it for them to book, the better. And I truly believe that hotels need to own their own backyard, and travel agencies are a big part of that equation. And so our hotels should be out visiting those travel agents, particularly now, to make sure those relationships are strong and that we've got a good partnership with them.
Of course. And now that the key aspect that we really comes down to is the consumer or the guest. And what are your thoughts in terms of working within your properties to restore the confidence of these guests to, as we say, test the waters, come out and stay in one of your properties? What are your thoughts in this regard?
Well, I think the guests have changed themselves, actually. The guest that's walking in the property has got a bit of a different mindset than they had in the past. Safety is totally their number one priority. They probably have been through all kinds of hoops to get to you. They may have traveled. They may have had to go through an airport. They may have had to do all kinds of safety protocols before they even get to you. So I think the visible evidence that what you've done is in place, the social distancing, the signage, I think the interaction with the desk, making sure they're fully trained, that the guest gets the right information so they have confidence that what you've done is right. Obviously, training is part of that. And so, there's at IHG, I mean, very similar to all of the brands, we've put in place new cleaning protocols, new check-in procedures. Guests want to own own the experience, right? So they don't want to be touching too many things. They want to see visible signs of cleanliness going on in the hotel. And I think that we can visibly demonstrate that we're making the place safe and secure, and they're going to feel comfortable staying in the hotel.
Eric, do you feel the same with your properties in terms of generating more, getting people motivated, or that sort of approach?
Well, hotel stays have always been about creating a memorable experience. How we're creating that memorable experience is obviously being affected right now, and we're going to be creating a different memorable experience in some cases with the enhanced cleaning protocols, staff training, the social distancing within the hotel. So, we really just have to build upon what we've always done with our company and, add these protocols for making them feel safe at the property. I mean, we've been ahead of this curve at RealStar with both our brands for a number of years. Our president and SVP bought luminometers for all of our regional franchise managers who conduct the secret inspections across the country. And we've been identifying, areas within hotels that, have lots of contaminants on them. So these are anything from remote controls, as someone said previously, in rooms to the keyboards and the business centers. So we've already been ahead of the curve in addressing these, but certainly part of our marketing now, this has to become part of our marketing, is, letting guests know, A, that we care, B, that we've undergone extreme training across our locations to ensure their safety and employee safety.
It's very refreshing to hear that we really are focusing on enhancing and improving safety, of course. But again, Robert, I'm getting a few questions here, and it has to do with what we call the hotel experience. And everyone knows what a hotel was like in 2019. You had a pool, a restaurant, a spa. There were things to do, places to go, people to sniff, as my dog would say. But what's it going to be like now? What is the hotel experience going to be like in a COVID environment? What is your experience at the Chelsea going to be like?
Well, Larry, undoubtedly there'll be a change from what we had experienced in the past. Physical changes, the distancing measures that we've spoken to, obviously the plexiglass shielding at the reception desk and at the point of sales within outlets, once we're able to get our outlets fully up and running. It won't be unusual to see hotel employees in masks and gloves, and obviously a great deal more public area and public cleaning happening on high-touch surfaces. I guess if you just look at that side of it, you might say it's taking away from the guest experience, although personally I believe it's addressing that need guests feel for security. But we're very conscious that we don't want to just do those things and lose the interaction, the personal side of the business. So one of the protocols that we've adopted is, as we bring our colleagues back to work, those ones that have not been able to work through this process, before they actually start a shift, they go through training not only on how to wear personal protective equipment and why they should wear that equipment and why we're mandating that they wear that equipment, but we're taking it as an opportunity to reemphasize the importance of hospitality, especially given all these precautions. And I've got full confidence in my colleagues. I've got full confidence in our industry's colleagues that everyone is more than up to the challenge of getting beyond a face mask and still giving a really nice, personalized, memorable interaction with guests.
Terrific. Jonathan, your thoughts on the hotel experience as we try to wrap this part of the session up?
Yeah, I mean, we call it true hospitality at IHG, and the people who work in the hotel business are there for a reason. They love the work they do, and I always think there's a smile behind that mask, and you can see it in somebody's eyes. And so I think that part won't change. I think there are some mechanics that get in the way of it, but I think that true hospitality will certainly shine through. And you know, the people that are working there, they want to make that experience great. They want those customers coming back. They want to tell their friends, you know, look, we just stayed at this hotel. It was a great experience. You should try it out. So we all have a part in bringing back this business, and certainly the employees are a key part of making that happen.
Terrific. And I got a few questions that have come through, and I'm going to put the first one to you, Eric. And is there something called the Certified as Travel Safe seal that has been put out? Do you have any of your hotels looking at any sort of certification of any sort?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is, you know, something we're seeing across the industry globally right now. Is we have organizations creating their own programs, we have brands creating their own programs. We have decided to align ourselves exactly to what the American Hotel and Lodging Association has done. We also work in tandem with our partners at Wyndham Hotels and Resorts and G6 Hospitality for our brands. So, you know, we've created a hybrid program of AHLA standards, the Wyndham standards, the G6, and then added some of our own touches to that on top. In terms of specific programs, you know, I'm not aware of if we're certifying under specific programs. I'm not that familiar with the one you're speaking of, but certainly there are excellent industry mandated programs out there that, you know, we've decided to get on board with, and that we think will keep our guests safe and will keep our employees safe.
Well, I have a question just came through for Jonathan. And Jonathan, our buffet's over. Is this the end of the buffet? Will we ever see one again?
Well, certainly while we don't have a vaccine there, everything that we're working on now is very much packaged, controlled, takeout. You can have a buffet as long as there is an attendant at the buffet that's providing the service to the guest. But that is only really at a breakfast type of event. So for now, they're gone. But what will they look like when they come back? Time will tell. I mean, this is gonna come back, and we'll see this thing over. And when that vaccine gets in, life will go back to normal at hotels.
You know, I can hardly wait. I'll stick my arm out instantly for it because I'm itching for travel. And a question I'm going to give to Rob, because I don't want to bias our other chain or brand affiliates. And it talks about percent occupancy. And I got a question here saying, if we have all of these issues on social distancing and eating and prepping rooms and movement through a hotel, what do you think? Will you ever achieve that 90% that you did 12 months ago, or is there going to be a limit as max you can go under these circumstances?
Well, it's a good question, Larry. Let me just start by saying we will move on from the current situation. The pandemic will be defeated. There will be a successful vaccine. Business will return to what we knew before. In the interim, I think we're going to see a gradual ramp up. I'm not a believer that we're going to go from 0 to 90 overnight. And I think that as we get busier, we will fine tune our processes to make sure that we continue to serve our guests well and keep them safe. But I think because it's a gradual process, we should be fine.
Okay. And I'm going to wrap up with a last question, and it's a bit of a crystal ball one. I'm going to put it to Eric. And that is, right now we have a world of plexiglass and a world of gloves and masks, and we're creating social distances, and we understand and recognize that. But the hotel industry is based on personal and close interaction. And the words that I would use would be close to our customer or close to our guests. Do you see, once COVID goes away, that we're going to take down the plexiglass, or is that going to be here forever?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I would think until that we hit a vaccine stage, you can expect that you're going to have the social distancing. You're going to have the plexiglass. Certainly, we are trying to remain closer to our guests, but this is now metamorphosizing into a more digital experience. So, I would bet a pound to a penny everyone here on the panel with me is probably already researching and doing due diligence on digital solutions in which they're engaging with their guests. So, the long and the short of it is, eventually the plexiglass will probably come down. I don't know how long that's going to take. And social distancing, if this goes on for 2 to 3 years, will become part of how we are socially as a species. But, I think over the long term, I think we do want to create a more intimate home-like experience. That would be the end goal. But in the meantime, we'll have to work within the confines that are dictated to us by science and find new ways to interface with our guests, such as the digital interfacing.
I think ending on technology is excellent. And Eric, Jonathan, and Rob, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us to talk about your properties and where things are heading. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, Robert, and Jonathan. That was excellent. And thank you so much, Larry. We'll now take a minute to prepare for segment 3, our case study on small luxury hotels of the world with Julie Owens. If anyone needs to grab a quick drink of water or anything, now is the time to do it. Okay, Julie, whenever you're ready, you can start your video feed, and I will stop my screen share.
Great. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm looking forward to speaking with you all about small luxury hotels. Let me just share my screen. Let's see.
I'll let you know when we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, it's saying it's not host disabled my screen sharing.
Here you go. I just had to click one more thing there. It should work now.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
That's much better. Okay.
There we go. Looking good.
Okay. Just gonna stop my video. There we go. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you all about our brand, Small Luxury Hotels of the World. So Small Luxury Hotels of the World is one of the most desirable communities of independently minded travelers and independently spirited hotels in the world. We are very grateful to just celebrate our 30th anniversary. So we've kind of been the voice for all of these independently owned and operated hotels for quite some time now. Each of our hotels have been personally visited, vetted, and verified. All 500 hotels in more than 90 countries. Our mission is that we are envisioning a future where people experience the world with intention, experience its intensity, and most importantly, protect its integrity. So with that, we have an entire sales team that is dedicated to the travel agent industry. I just want to introduce you all to us. We have Josh Hordequin, who is based on the West Coast. Myself, Julie Owens, who is based on the East Coast, and I handle the Canadian market as well. Lita Morano in the Southeast and Mexico. Vanessa Johnson, who is the Central region, and Dominic Leday in Latin America and Central America. So the travel agent community is extremely important to small luxury hotels. Canada is actually our third largest source market, and travel agents represent about 85% of our entire revenue. So we are here to support in any way that we possibly can. We have initiated a webinar series where we have established over 30 webinars open to all travel advisors. This gives a great opportunity for you to hear from our SLH members about promotions they are running, and most importantly, how they are combating the coronavirus and new additions that they have. We also send out an e-newsletter, which goes over special offers, new hotels, hotel openings, and pre-COVID, we have North American showcases where we would bring about 20 to 30 hoteliers to you, so you get to meet them. On a smaller scale, we do have road shows throughout the entire world where we'll bring 4 to 5 hoteliers to your offices. Not sure what's going to happen post-COVID, but I think we're all trying to figure that out. We also have in the past executed lots of fam trips, and we have a VIP desk. So you can book our entire collection directly with us. And of course, we do pay travel agent commission. It is the standard 10% commission, but we have promotions that will allow an additional 2 to 5 commission, increased commission as well. So that, in regards to the webinar series, if any of you are interested, please reach out to me and we can get you all set up there. When booking any of our hotels, we have several different channels to do that. If you use a GDS, we have that LX code. And then, like I mentioned before, our VIP desk is amazing. They're like your concierge for our entire collection. So they can give you the latest updates, availability, rate parity. They're there for you. And we are working on our travel agent website, which will be up soon, that will offer industry rates and new hotel openings. I also want to talk about, the luxury market and how COVID has affected it. I think there's been some really great points shared today, but small luxury hotels is thankfully poised to make a strong comeback. We are slowly seeing an increase in bookings for late 2020, early 21, which is a great sign. Out of our 530 hotels, we currently have about half of them open. We hope to have our entire collection, or most of our entire collection, reopened by year end. I do think that the luxury market will have a quicker comeback than maybe the larger hotel segments. As we've discussed today, travelers are excited to change of scenery and looking for an intimate getaway from crowds. So I think the boutique hotels have a leg up there. These small hotels were created for social distancing with the average about 50 rooms per property throughout our collection. So we're able to monitor the procedures closely, provide the highest level of personalization, and most importantly, cleanliness, of course. And some examples of how our small luxury hotel properties are well positioned to welcome travelers. We have seen an increase in inquiries for our private island resorts. So we have several options there. We have the Tiamo Resort in Bahamas, Petite St. Vincent in the Grenadines. Another big option that we're seeing are hotel buyouts. So you can just travel with your family or with your quarantine bubble. I think when corporate travel increases, we'll see a bigger demand for privatization. And we have several options there. Out of our collection, we have about 80 hotels that can offer a complete buyout, which is very exciting. So, and people are certainly looking for that country house getaway, focus on wellness and nature, which I think is very important for all of us right now with the current climate. So that's something that our portfolio can offer to you and your clients. The new hotel experience. So I think we're really rewording what's going on in the current climate. So as we discussed, obviously, fewer guests are allowed at once. And contactless interaction, and of course, digitalizing procedures. So working with different apps, smartphone apps to control aspects of all interactions. We have seen a really big increase in private dining and in-room dining. And of course, all the hotels have redesigned the communal spaces to meet social distancing requirements, and just being flexible. You know, we're all trying to feel comfortable with this new normal. And so our hotels are certainly, you know, have additional leeway with cancellations and heightened customer service to make sure that they can go above and beyond for what they're looking for. And then in regards to the brand, what Small Luxury Hotels is doing, we actually created an initiative called Stay Safe, Stay Small section on our website, which details all the best practices and additional safety precautions for the properties to provide a peace of mind for the travel advisor and guest. Along with that, we have updated our mystery inspection program. So in addition to our 700-point checklist, our quality assurance department will be including 135 checkpoints related to health, safety, cleanliness standards for our mystery inspections program to be performed yearly. All of our hotels are inspected once a year. So you can rest assured that you're receiving the very best. I think we've all discussed today, you know, it's the complete overhaul and heightened standards for hygiene and cleanliness to combat this virus is certainly an intimidating task, and one that is going to be constant and ongoing, but it is crucial for safety and security for each of our guests and staff members. So we're really looking to welcome your guests in a safe way, and it's constantly evolving as well. So that's just a small little snippet on Small Luxury Hotels. I really appreciate your time here, and I think we'll open it up to any questions. Let's see.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Of course.
And there are a couple that have been submitted here. You addressed this first question already. How many of your properties offer full buyouts? So you said it was around 80?
Yes, 80 exactly.
Fantastic. And that person said, can you talk a little bit more about that kind of option becoming more popular in a post-COVID-19 world?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a really big increase in demand for that, where, for example, Rawa Ranch in Colorado, there's 9 rooms. So you can just go there with your family, making sure that, you know, you're everything is clean and safe and things like that. The hotels will work with each of the clients on their specific demands. And we are offering that there is a time in between the guest checkout. It's about 24 hours before a new guest checks in to make sure that everything has been clean and things like that.
That's great. And our next question submitted to here was, when do you think you'll be running your next FAM trip? And how can we expect agent FAMs to change in the future?
Yeah, great question. We've been getting a few of these inquiries. I don't know. I do think it will be, you know, next year before we see a FAMs take off. Maybe more of a local FAM, depending. But yeah, we're still figuring that out.
Of course, of course. And the next question here is, do you offer a flexible cancellation policy due to COVID-19?
We do. We do, yeah. Ultimately, the hotel does predict the cancellation penalty, but they all been very flexible. 24 hours has been kind of the basis, 24-hour cancellation.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Through us, so we can have some control over that.
That's great. And an anonymous attendee asks, are full hotel buyouts a good alternative right now for resort style destination weddings?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, pre-COVID, they were. So yeah, I think that's a really good option to have a gathering, you know, of anywhere from 15 to 30 people. And the hotels are all very well versed and can help the clients with that.
That's great. Thanks, Julie. And I do believe that's it for the questions. Just let me double check that here. Okay, thank you again, Julie. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Julie. That wraps up day 2 of Travel Webcast Week. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for day 3, where the theme will be Look Local, a new perspective on packaging and selling Canada. Thanks, everyone. Take care.